The White House triples down on saying that the border is secure. We have a pro-abortionist calling a pro-lifer a traitor on the show Dr. Phil, and inflation numbers are in. All that and more here on The Bald Brad Show. Welcome to The Bald Brad Show. It is Wednesday, September 14th, and as always, I couldn't be happier than to spend these fine mornings doing The Bald Brad Show and hanging out with all of you, my friends and true American patriots, where we come together as a community of conservatives and Republicans, go over the stories of the day, and bring you all the news and information you need to know about. So heck, if you want to join us here at The Bald Brad Show and you haven't already, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're over at Rumble, hit the plus and give us a comment down below. And if you're listening on any of the podcast airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, heck, folks, you can find us and listen to us anywhere and everywhere. Make sure to leave us a lovely 5-star review. Not only do you be helping a conservative, most importantly, you'd be supporting getting conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. So your help and support would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, let's jump right into our lead story of the day regarding the White House tripling down on the border being secure. You can't make this up. I mean, it is so baffling how much they shoot themselves in the foot. Now, if you recall, there was an interview that we covered the other day regarding Kamala Harris here on Meet the Press, doubling down on this whole issue of the border being secure. I want to play this, and then we will jump into the clip with the White House press secretary. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Final topic here. Since we're here in Texas, I want to ask you about the border. Would you call the border secure?
I think that there is no question that we have to do what the president and I asked Congress to do. Is the first request we made: pass a bill to create a pathway to citizenship. The border is secure, but we also have a broken immigration system, in particular over the last 4 years before we came in, and it needs to be fixed.
We're going to have 2 million people cross this border for the first time ever. You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. But there are...
Okay, so as you can see, literally, that's why I held up too, she doubled down on this aspect of the border secure, even though we have over 2 million people that have come across the border illegally since they've taken office. Well, you have Jackie Henrick here of Fox News taking place for Peter Doocy today and asking that very question of what took place between Kamala Harris and Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. Let's go ahead and roll it.
All right. Thank you, Karine. Over the weekend, the Vice President said that the border is secure, but we're on track to close the fiscal year with 2 million encounters, breaking last year's record. In the last month alone, fentanyl seizures are up 200%, and we're on pace to break that record also this year. So how is the border secure?
So we see record seizures of fentanyl at the border, so we're actually catching fentanyl before it enters the country. So that's how we see that. Look, as far as the border, we're taking unprecedented action. We had to fix something that was broken, especially by the last administration. We've secured record level.
I just want to pause it there and we'll continue. She's literally echoing what Joe Biden has done, Jen Psaki has done, as well as Kamala Harris did in the Chuck Todd interview of which we just showed, of blaming the prior administration for this whole debacle of what literally they created. It is so freaking mind-bending. It is ridiculous.
This is what we have been able to do, of funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Remember, many Republicans voted against that. Many of them who would like to invite me to the border have actually voted against that. We've made over...
They invited her to the border because she literally stood on that podium and gaslit all of us and said that the illegal immigrants were not walking across the border. That wasn't happening. That's why they invited you, you knucklehead. Because you lied to everybody and you gaslit everybody, and now you're going to do the exact same thing and say that the border is secure, and you're going to give us a bunch of rambling, hocus pocus, bunch of foo-fa, the same thing and same way that your boss does, That's the president of the United States, as well as your supervisor, which is the vice president. Unbelievable. Let's continue.
3,000 arrests as part of a first of its kind anti-smuggling campaign. We've installed border technology and set up joint patrols with Mexico and Guatemala to catch traffickers. We've got Mexico to agree to pay $1.5 billion to improve border processing and security through smart, proven border management solutions. And the president brought
What a name. What a freaking name. Ooh, they're spending $1.5 billion. Whoop-de-doo. Just wait till the list finishes here, and I got a massive comment to make regarding all of that.
20 world leaders together to collectively manage migration flows across Western Hemisphere. Compare that to the Trump administration, which largely just tried to build a wall, an ineffective wall, along the border and couldn't even finish that in 4 years. We're certainly doing a lot more to secure the border and could be doing even more if Republicans would stop their obstruction. That's it. I'm going to just take one last...
She's not going to take any more questions from Jackie Henrich because she knows she just freaking lied about a lot of stuff, or at least manipulated stuff at the very least here. She gives us a litany of things they're doing. That's fine. Not a damn thing is working. If you're going to sit there and waste taxpayer dollars and boast about it and have a result of which you are breaking America's record that we've never seen before since the inception of this country, that's not something to be boastful about. And you're going to sit there and rip the prior administration for just building a wall that had dramatically less immigration than this current president. Spent less money, was building an inefficient wall, according to them, and had less immigration. They're freaking peddling tons of money out there to the border, and not a damn thing is changing. If anything, it's gotten literally worse. Every month has literally gotten worse under this administration, and they're going to sit there and tell you, just weeks apart, of one of which they're not walking across the border illegally. That's not happening. And then two, they're going to follow up and triple down now on the fact that they're going to tell you that the border is secure when you have massive amounts of fentanyl coming through. They're now targeting our children with fentanyl. You literally had a legal immigrant, sit there and kill like a 6 and 8-year-old the other day. That just happened. You have sex trafficking going through. He's created a multi-billion-dollar business in terms of drugs, sex trafficking, smuggling. But everything they're doing is supposedly working, folks. Clearly, we live in an alternate reality. I don't know if you knew that. We all live in different realities here, according to Democrats in the White House. They're not walking across the border. There's not 2 million people that have come through. There's not over 1 million gotaways. The sex trafficking, the smuggling, the violent gang members, the murders, the rape, all that stuff's not happening at all. All this stuff is a make-believe in your imagination because you're the conspiracy theorists. You're making all this up. This is how it works, folks. This is some Orwellian stuff coming from that podium. After they just got done ripping Trump for 4 years of saying stuff, this is the most egregious things you're going to hear of literally somebody telling you that they're not walking across the border as 2 million. It's not like 6,000, right? It's not like 1,000 people. You have millions of people pouring across the border since they've taken office, and they're telling you that it's not happening. They're telling you that the border is secure. If Trump did that, can you imagine the airwaves? Can you imagine the news that'd be coming out endlessly 24/7 on MSNBC, CNN, NBC, ABC? I mean, they would be running endless clips of this, and they're getting away with it. How many people do you see covering this? Blaze Media, The Daily Wire, The Bald Brad Show, the normals. But if you look around, even a lot of other conservatives aren't really talking about it that much. They might be posting a clip. Where's the commentary? Where's the outrage on literally lying to people blatantly? It's so crazy. Speaking of other craziness news, our second story of the day is regarding this pro-lifer. She's a leader. Her name is Lila Rose. She's been on Ben Shapiro's Sunday Special. She's a pro-life advocate and does a really great job of, pushing pro-life thought and advocacy out there. Well, she appeared on Dr. Phil's show and kind of was going at it with a pro-abortionist. And I tend to think that this pro-abortionist is progressive, and I'll explain why. You will see in a moment through this clip that this pro-abortionist is going all on feelings and emotions rather than logic and reason. And there's a massive issue and kind of an uproar from pro-lifers in terms of how Dr. Phil's show handled all this. And Lila Rose does a great job of kind of explaining it through a Twitter post, and then we'll play the video. She said this: Dr. Phil's team chose to center the entire show around an extremely tragic case of a mother whose baby had a fetal anomaly that was life-threatening. This was, again, a Twitter post by Rose. They made the focus of the episode her story, that she was forced to give birth to the baby instead of abort because of pro-lifer laws. Quote, "Carry my baby and bury my baby" was the line used, she continued. What they never acknowledged is that the abortion kills a baby and that the baby would still need to be buried or thrown away in medical waste. The reality is abortion does not solve or heal or any problem. It only kills a baby. In cases of life-threatening conditions for pre-born children, parental palliative care and hospice care can be offered to the baby so that they can pass into utero or shortly after birth. They have the best medical care, are treated with dignity. And the show also focused on incest as well as the other forms that are pushed a lot, which is rape. So incest and rape are definitely outliers, and that's what the show is pushing, which is wrong. And we see this a lot of times from progressive left, where they'll hyper focus on an outlier and have that outlier be attributed to the entire data set, which is false. And anybody that has half a brain, that is something you definitely don't do. But I want to go ahead and play this egregious clip here of this lady just telling Lila Rose that she doesn't have empathy and all these other things. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Great, I do. I have lots to say, actually, a ton to say, actually.
Okay.
I would say, though, in this particular case with Nancy, who I feel absolutely terrible for, Lila, I really feel like your views, you just want to legislate evil. That's really how it feels when I hear you speak, especially when you're talking about a 10-year-old girl who...
Notice that she says you want to legislate evil, and that's how I feel when you speak. So hold on to that.
...was raped. I'm sorry. And to hear you say that, they should just have it anyway is disgusting. I really think you're a traitor to your own, and I will never be able to agree with you. There's nothing you could justify to say that she should have to carry it to bury it. There is nothing you could possibly say to justify that level of lack of empathy. And that's the problem I feel like in this country at the moment. We were founded on the lack of empathy, and we...
What an amazing statement. We were founded on a lack of empathy. And that's what the progressive left does. That's what pro-abortionists do. Mind you, I used to be pro-choice, okay? I was once on this side. I never acted like this, though. Never acted like a knucklehead of putting yourself on a pedestal on higher moral ground than somebody else. Just to put it in perspective, this lady here, granted, she's using rape and incest as, the end-all be-all, when we all know that the massive amount of abortions, by far and large, are literally just elective. That it's because you just, you can't care for the child, or that, it was a mistake. In other words, it's just uncomfortable to have it and that you don't want to go through with it because it has negative consequences on your life. The vast majority of them are that case. But they're going to hyper-focus on this so they can push a certain narrative. But you got to love that she's going to say that this country was founded on a lack of empathy when literally we have the greatest document in all of human history that says all men are created equal, of which basically no other country in the world has it, nor do they have our type of constitution. We're not... The stuff that they push and they peddle here is just all a bunch of caca, all a bunch of garbage spewing out of their mouths of just pent up rage and emotion without using this thing on their head called a head, their brain. It is so frustrating that we can't even have conversations with logic and reason. It always has to do with emotion. Where, again, if you want to have a conversation about the entire data as a whole, I'm fine to talk about that. But when you're trying to attribute outliers of rape and incest and connect it to with the majority of abortions, that's wrong. And anybody that knows basic statistics knows you don't do that. I'll continue.
Just kept up with that tradition. If you have no empathy.
Abortion is devastating to women's mental health. No one talks about that. The year after a woman has an abortion,
it's really like
the year after a woman
to have the child. What kind of trauma is
the
that?
Trauma
that you're
is from the
on
rape.
Somebody?
The trauma is from the rape. The child's an innocent party there.
The child
we
isn't
don't
born
take out
yet. It's not there.
We should not take out gender.
You got to be another level of stupid, you guys. I'm sorry. Even if there's pro-choice people that watch this show, she literally just said the baby's not there. You got to be some next level dumb to say a statement like that. Even if you're pro-choice, again, I was on that side before. The vast majority of my life, I still didn't say stupid stuff like that. Not even close. I understood there was a life in the person's body, but she's saying it's not even there now. That's probably one of the craziest things I've actually heard a pro-abortionist say. Normally, they just say it's a cluster of cells. Oh, there's actually not a life in it. All these things. I've never had somebody say, well, it's not even there.
generational sin on a child, to say there's generational sin and that dad was an abuser, so the child should be killed. That's not fair to the child.
We're talking about rights. And he just said, a right has been taken away from us. And what is next?
I want to address that because our fundamental human right that we all share in this room is life. It's the first human right. Laws are meant to protect the weak. In a society, who's the weakest? Who's the weakest in the society? A child. The poorest. They don't have a voice. They can't speak. A child in the room, or a poor child would be the weakest. Them that way by and a child with disability. Listen, whether you live 10 minutes or 10 years or 100 years, you're a human life, and you have the right to not be killed. And that's what the pro-life fight is all about. That's what we're fighting for, a culture of life where we provide real health care. You know, abortion is the intentional destruction of an innocent human life.
Doesn't a woman
we can do better than that.
Choose that for herself?
A right to choose what? A right to choose what?
Doesn't a woman have a right to choose what happens to her body?
But what's in her body? There's another life we're talking about. Let's acknowledge the science.
And I would defer to Christian and the experts, but I will say this. You can't just be pro-fetus and not pro-life.
Right.
Because a lot of times what we see...
We're pro-human beings. We're pro-human beings. And women deserve better than abortion. A lot of these children are born,
all those legislators who vote for pro-life when the baby's inside the woman then do nothing to vote to help them with health care, after-school care, daycare, all these.
Okay, so now they're going on about all these other things of which you'd have to obtain if you were alive anyways. So they're going on cherry picking this whole thing of if the baby was born, well, you're not going to vote and have all these other things, which one, the conversation isn't even evolving around. The conversation of which Dr. Phil's show is talking about is rape and incest, which is tragic. Any pro-lifer would admit that's tragic. That sucks. Not the baby's fault. The baby still has a right to life and has a right to be born, even though what the pro-abortionist was talking about was the right was removed because the Supreme Court wrongfully granted certain rights that are not in the Constitution. I know I'm beating a dead horse with this. I know we literally just talked about this the other day. The rights never existed, you guys. Even if you are pro-choice or pro-life, it really doesn't matter. Just the main function of government, what the Supreme Court did was wrong in that ruling. As I've said, even the own clerks that voted in the majority in favor of Roe v. Wade says that the ruling was wrong. What they did was wrong. That is not what the judiciary is supposed to do. What the Supreme Court did of breaking down the certain trimesters of when you get an abortion and creating certain rights within that from the penumbras, from the shadows, was literally wrong. So a lot of this comes down from lack of ignorance and a lack of understanding just how things work in general. So you don't have to be pro-life or pro-choice to know that it was just wrong with what they did. And putting it back to the states, of which where it's supposed to be, where you'd want that to be so you can elect if you want something to happen, meaning the more powers back into the people and not the federal government, is so mind-bending to me that Democrats would not want that kind of right to be in the hands of them to be able to vote for the very things that they want. And why would you want to leave it up to the freaking government? Oh, I forgot, because Democrats want bigger government, but they don't want bigger government when it goes against them, because when it goes against them, all of a sudden the Supreme Court's a bunch of activists, again, as we saw earlier in prior episodes. Oh, and if it goes against them, all of a sudden they're extremists. All of a sudden they're a threat to democracy. All of a sudden they're a threat to the country when things don't go their way. But when things do go their way, all of a sudden, kumbaya, everything's great. Look at us. Even though, again, Roe v. Wade, you do not have a right to abortion. They can call it health care for all they want. Health care for whom? There is two parties there. There is a child and there is a person. Health care for the person, but then you're going to murder somebody else. And the irony of all of it, and I'll end with this for this specific segment here, the irony of all of it is that literally somebody that is for killing another human life, probably up to the point of birth, I don't know that specific woman, but I know that parties, Democrat Party specifically, as well as pro-abortionists, are up to point of birth, literally centimeters from the vaginal canal. They are for killing that baby. It is so enriching that they are going to sit there, as well as ironic, they're going to sit there and talk about empathy when they're literally for chopping up a baby with scissors or whatever. I mean, they do it many different ways, sucking it out, throwing it in a trash can. They're talking about empathy with all of us. Rape or not, rape, incest or not, again, vast majority of abortions, not even anywhere near the rape and incest, the 1% that's used for that, are because of rape and incest. Therefore, because it's an inconvenient at the end of the day. But they're going to talk about us not having empathy. Just so mind-blowing you can have that type of connection. You're literally for murdering children, but you're going to talk to us about empathy and put yourself on a moral high ground than a pro-lifer. I honestly, God, I can't wrap my head around it. I've been thinking about it all day because I've obviously researched this. I'm trying to figure out how can we make sense of the other side and their argument, of which is the grounds of which I'm always trying to come. I just can't get there. I can't get there at all. Our last news story of the day. We got inflation numbers back, folks. Remember last time we had these numbers? It went from 9.1 to like 8.5. And Joe Biden was like, oh, well, inflation's zero. We have 0% inflation. And everybody's like, what the hell are you talking about, man? You sure in hell ain't reading from that teleprompter, because the teleprompter can't be wrong. Because the teleprompter's wrong, that means your staff's wrong. Guess it's not that too far off of being true. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, rose 8.3% between August 2021 and August 2022, according to Tuesday's report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The reading marks a decline from the 8.5%, so we dropped basically 0.2%, year-over-year rate seen in July, and the 9.1% that we just spoke of earlier, year-over-year rate seen since June, as gasoline prices continue to fall. And what you're going to have is Democrats and the progressive left push how inflation's coming down. Oh, kumbaya, look at all our prices of goods and services have dropped. The way it's doing is you got gas prices falling, which is a good thing. That obviously is a good thing, but it's not offsetting in the way that you think it is. We're still paying way more for prices of goods and services. However, month-over-month prices for food, shelter, and medical services continue to tick upward, producing a 0.1% overall price increase from July. So it's not much, right? You're looking at 0.1%, but they've still gone up, meaning literally for this entire year, since we're looking from August now to August in 2021, you are paying over 8% more for goods and services. And sometimes it's more than that, right? These are basically just averages taken across basically all goods. So some goods are up like 30%, some goods are up 20%. So you go to the grocery store, you're paying vastly more for that product than you were just a year ago. Or in other words, since Joe Biden took office as well. However, month-over-month prices for food, shelter, and medical service again continue to tick upwards. Economists had expected headline inflation to fall 0.1%. Quote, the substantial decline in gasoline prices is noteworthy, but doesn't address the overall problem with inflation, Bankrate senior economic analyst Mark Hamrick told the Daily Wire, noting that August report contains unpleasant surprises apparently. Prices for food at home, a category that includes grocery store or supermarket food purchases, increased 0.7% from the previous month, meaning they have not gone down, they've only gotten worse. Granted, not substantially, but in totality of things, since Joe Biden's taken office, since this inflation has upticked, you are paying drastically more for food. Meanwhile, prices for natural gas and electricity rose 3.5% and 1.5% respectively. So now you're getting into whole percentages, right, of 3.5 for electricity, as well as natural gas at 1.5 or vice versa. So energy's gone up, food's gone up, gas prices have decreased, which is what's giving us that 0.2 offset from what we've seen of the prior month. Indeed, core inflation, the price level increase for all items except for food and energy, saw a 0.6% increase in August, making a faster rate of increase than July. But remember, he was boasting before that somehow we had 0% inflation, right? As we keep saying, this administration is probably the most administration I've seen that tries to gaslight the American people than I've ever seen before. It's almost like we're dealing with China here in a way, right? Some dictatorship, some communist country where they're basically telling you that things aren't happening as they literally are happening. The best example we've always talked about here on the show is the MSNBC host sitting there saying, hey, it's mostly peaceful, while there's freaking cities and buildings burning behind him and people looting stores left and right, throwing crap at the camera and at him. It's not happening as you're freaking watching with your own eyes and listening and seeing it actually happening. That's basically what's going on here with the Biden administration. It's all right. Inflation's going to be fine. We're going to push through the Inflation Reduction Act. Doesn't actually reduce inflation. So here we are. They already passed it. It's already a done deal. And inflation's gone up, but it's called the Inflation Reduction Act. You can't make it up. You could even write this if you wanted to. Again, there was a 0.6% increase in August, marking a faster rate of increase than July and producing a 6.3% year-over-year rate. Economists were expecting core inflation to rise 0.3. Not even freaking close again. Joe Biden's he's outpacing the own economists. They're sitting there hedging the bet, going, okay, hey, you know what? Maybe not 0.1. Let's make it 0.3, folks. There's no way in hell he's going to beat that. 6.3%. Not even close. Joe freaking knocked it out of the park once again, just like he did with freaking illegal immigration. Nobody's beating the guy in terms of these numbers. regardless of the negative surprises, President Joe Biden claimed victory and that it was essentially flat now. So he went from 0% inflation to now that it's flat, which in a nutshell, basically what he's saying, it's 0% again, without actually saying it, because he got hounded so much by people like the Bald Brad Show, us here, and other people at the Daily Wire and other outlets. Check this out. Quote, it will take more time and resolve to bring inflation down, which is why we passed the Inflation Reduction Act to lower costs of healthcare, prescription drugs, and energy, of which literally we just got to talk about went up. It's so rich. It is so rich to go over this. And my economic plan is showing that as we bring prices down, we are creating good paying jobs and bring manufacturing back to America. Good paying jobs. Yes. Yes. Folks, if you're paying more for a certain labor that you were before, that inflates things. Honest to God, he's an idiot. The administration's an idiot. They're all idiots. Last month, multiple White House officials spun the July inflation rate by noting that inflation was, on paper, 0%, even as they failed to mention the continually rising prices for food and other commodities. So we're seeing the same thing here, except they're saying it stays flat, right? It's just a reversal of kind of the wording and thinking to manipulate it and to basically assume that it's almost zero when it's flat, right? But it's so rich to say that freaking the plan is showing that we are bringing prices down. No, you're not. We just got done saying virtually all prices are up other than fuel prices. Energy's up. Okay. Eggs are up. Hey, go to the grocery store, just look at everything. Hell, you can see with your own eyes. It's objective. You can all look at it, but this is the White House. This is what they've been doing for a year now, gaslighting all of us, saying things aren't happening when they actually are happening, and then spinning it and saying, oh, it's the previous administration's fault. All this, illegal immigration, everything that's happening around the globe is all Trump's fault. It's just amazing how those things work. It's amazing how they don't want to put the blame on themselves, because they know if they do, that they're not going to get reelected. Folks, there's people that are still going to vote for this guy. I mean, you could go on TikTok. I mean, there's people like, oh, Joe Biden's better than Trump. Honest to God, you just can't be all there. If you think that Joe Biden is better than Trump, you got something wrong with you. I'm not saying Trump's the best guy ever. I'm not saying he doesn't have flaws. That's not what I'm saying. Look at around. Just look at around you. Supply chain issues, Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, Iran, North Korea, just passing certain things saying, hey, if something happens to Kim Jong-un, we're going to freaking nuke the hell out of people, always threaten us. You still got Iran saying death to America, trying to push through a nuclear deal, once again, of which Joe Biden wants to sign. You got record inflation happening. You got record illegal immigration happening. You're paying more for goods and services. Your rent's gone up. Wages have gone down in some areas, in some sectors. It's just there's everything that pretty much has gone wrong is going wrong. So there you have it. Inflation numbers gone down a tiny bit, but in totality, hidden behind those numbers, you're actually paying more for energy, foods, and services. Well, folks, let me know what you think about all this. Do you like being gaslit by the White House? Do you like Joe Biden lying to you? Do you like Karine Jean-Pierre stepping on that podium and lying to all of you each and every day? I sure in hell don't, but hey, people are still going to vote for this guy and this administration over Trump or DeSantis. It's unbelievable. Like I said, let me know what you think about all this. Folks, have a lovely day, and I'll see you tomorrow here on The Bald Brad Show.